with my good friend Hannah, and I'm gonna let Hannah just give her introduction, a little bit of who she is and everything. But me and Hannah worked together a couple years ago in like PR and visibility, and ever since we started working together, I feel like everything that you said that you were going to do has literally been manifesting for you, like in like quantum leaping times. Like it's like time has been collapsed. And I watched your story, how you opened up the space in Hudson Valley, and it freaking looks incredible. It literally looks like a page out of Restoration Hardware's like design piece, which you're like, ooh, that's probably the best compliment you could ever get. Like,
oh my God, that just made my day.
no, but for real. So I'm so excited for this conversation, because what I like to talk about is like obviously like manifestation and mindset and growth and all of the things. And so before I just start chit-chatting away, why don't you tell everyone who you are, what you do, a little bit about Hannah?
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to chat. And yes, my name is Hannah. I am born and raised in New York, and I currently live in the Hudson Valley. And we have 3 companies, HN Consulting. That's where we will advise lifestyle brands and all things marketing, branding, and PR. We have HN House, which is our community and network for multi-passionate women. And then I have this Hudson Studio, which is our photo and event space in the Hudson Valley. So I like to say we're redefining the way that we live and work, and all of our brands are working to do that. So
cool. So how did these 3 like your umbrella, but how did everything like come to be? Because you weren't always like this powerhouse business owner.
Oh, we started with humble roots here. So I started with just myself and with an Instagram account of 200 people. So just want to be mindful for anyone that's listening in. We had nothing when we started. And I came from corporate America, similar to you, experienced burnout one too many times. And that was kind of like the kickstart. And then, with the pandemic that happened, it was really like the push to figure things out. It was like a do or die situation. So we started out myself, and it quickly grew into advising and also the done for you work. And then fast forward a few years later, and that's when we started, the hunt for the studio. And that opened up a year ago in March. So I can't believe we're already a year into the studio already, which is wild.
Wow, it's been a year already? Oh my gosh, I swear, like time flies so fast. And that's not even just like a saying, it's like a legit thing. I
It really
swear.
is.
I'm like, I have this theory. Well, I have this theory because my sister had this theory, but now I have the theory that we're all in like this simulation, and like someone's pressing the fast forward button, like for real, for real.
I actually said this to my husband like a few weeks ago. I was like, does it feel like time is going faster? Because I actually feel like it is personally. It's crazy.
I wonder if there's like some new moon shit happening or something going on in like astrology or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love how you were just sharing like with, like corporate and all of the things. Because for me, I share about my story all the time. And I love to remind my listeners that no matter what, like there's always going to be like a reason not to do something or a reason to do something. And, there's going to be that like where you come in up against like this resistance to like just take that leap of faith. For me, it was like almost a decade where I just kept like hitting that same wall over and over again. Like I knew I wanted to make an impact, and I knew I wanted so much more, but for some reason, like I just couldn't make it work. And I was also resisting the inner work on myself that I knew was going to be like that expansion, because I think part of me was like a little bit scared of success. And I think that's something that's not really talked about enough. And I know like for you, like you've like over the last couple of years, like your success and like what you're experiencing, your growth, like what I was just saying is like, I feel like you've just been experiencing like quantum leap after quantum leap and like expansion. So how do you maintain like the mindset of growth with like all the growth? Like, because sometimes I feel like, is it happening too fast? Like what's going on? Like, what's your thought process around that? And how does it like work for you?
Oh my goodness. The thoughts around like, is this a fluke? Is this even going to be sustainable? That has been like my entire business journey. Right. And I know there's a lot of people where like, you know, they don't have that same experience, and that's okay. Like everyone's on their own journey and on their own path. And I will say, not, you know, one is not better than the other. You know, I think a lot of people see from the outside looking in, like, yes, quantum leaping, massive growth, but also what comes with that is a lot of massive sacrifice. And you know, as a business was growing to these new levels, my mindset had to catch up to it. You know, there
Mm,
were so many times where I was sitting there thinking like, is this really actually happening right now? And I'd be thinking about, oh my goodness, is this going to crash and burn tomorrow? Am I going to lose everything tomorrow? And you go through these cycles, but I think like the biggest thing too, and I love manifestation. So I just, we could talk about this for an hour. But I think too, for me, I've always leveraged the tools, whether I knew about them or I did not. So I was
right.
always journaling. I was very into like future visualization. Like that's really what helped me to literally visualize like, okay, what am I actually creating?
Yeah.
And I realized years later that it was actually like a gift of mine, like, cause I can actually help see that too for clients. And
Right.
it was something too that really helped to push through a lot of the lows, because there's tons of them. There's so many lows in entrepreneurship that people don't talk about, but it actually starts with the inner work. And I know you appreciate this too, but like the higher you grow, it's all about the inner work, because that's what you're going to face with every level.
So true. You know, it's so interesting because I think that at any level of your journey, whether you haven't made the step to start your business or if you're, you know, at the 6-figure, 7-figure, 8, 9, 10
Mhm.
figure, wherever you are, right? It always comes down to the inner work that get to do, you have to do, but like really you have to do it. And it's not like to say it's like a chore, but sometimes it's not fun. It's not fun. And sometimes it's not easy either. So like, I have like a lot to say on this. So I'm going to reel it in a second. I feel like it's irresponsible of like whether you're a business coach or a coach or whatever kind of coach that you are, or whatever kind of entrepreneur that you are, where it's like, when you feel aligned and flowy and all the da 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 da
Mhm.
da, and then here we are, like other people who are just starting their businesses are like, this doesn't feel aligned and flowy. This feels really hard, and like there's a lot of things that I'm learning, and like it doesn't feel flowy like everyone's supposed to say, and then they shame themselves and get upset about it not feeling
Mhm.
flowiness, right? But that's something that happens at every level of growth, because if we were fully embodied in that version of ourselves, we would have it already, right? So
Mhm.
like for you, like how I'm like I'm so curious about like everyone's like mindset practices, and other than like journaling, because we can all
Mhm.
journal, right? Like that's for me it's
Mhm.
great, but like what it comes down to is like that real action. So like for you, like what is like your mindset practices, maybe how they've evolved over time, and like how do you put them into action?
Ooh, this is so, so good. So I think for me, you know, especially when I first started out, I resisted a lot of this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like this is fine. I don't have anything to work on. Just give me the strategy and I'm okay.
Right? Like
Looking
everyone
back,
wants the click here strategy. And that's what I wanted
yeah.
too. And like I thought that was going to solve everything. Like here, the 10 steps to 10K.
Exactly. And so once I realized that it actually was so backwards, it really changed the perspective. So for me, like I said, I started with the journaling component, but I really got into just like absorbing and listening to so many different types of people, you know, and really getting into more of like the spiritual space, which I consider myself pretty spiritual. I also started to tap also into different modalities that would help me get a little bit deeper into the subconscious as well, which was something that I also learned. I love this. I love that you're lighting that right now.
As you
Um,
said, you're super spiritual. I'm like, okay, then she's definitely not going to think that I'm lighting up a joint right now.
I love it. So really leveraging breath work has been really helpful. Oh my
Mm,
goodness, I have done so many. I forgot the other modality that I did as well, but I've done so many different types of like healing practices
yeah.
internally, really to get to like the deep root cause of some of the resistance that's coming up, the things from childhood that had to be released that I just been holding on for all these years.
Yeah.
But that's been a really, really helpful piece. But then also too, you know, I know there's like that cliche saying, but it's like really who you are is who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And so I just really tried to surround myself with people who were just constantly thinking bigger and were expansive. And that
Mm.
really helped to just open up, you know, my own, you know, universe and realm of like what is actually even possible here, you know?
So true. Oh my God. I love that so much because honestly, like surrounding yourself with people who are more successful and smarter and like doing the thing. Like I used to get so intimidated by that. In fact, like I feel like I would almost keep myself small to continuously be the smartest, most successful person in the room because it had me feel in a certain way, you know, but like I had to do my own mindset work around like getting humble and like asking for help and like picking people's brains and, you know, admitting that I didn't know it all.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's a strength. I think that's a strength. And not I think, I know that's a strength now. I didn't think it was then. And I think that was also a lot of the inner work that I was doing too, is like understanding that like it's okay to not know it all and it's okay to ask for help. And like that's something to be proud of, because if we try to do everything and figure it out on our own, not only does it take longer, but then we're spreading ourselves too thin and we're not doing the things that we wanted to do in the first place. And then the business that we're growing becomes an obligation and a resentment because we're feeling so frustrated.
Yeah, I think
Right?
it's like the balance of like the
Yeah.
masculine and feminine energy too. And I think that's a big thing, especially like, for business owners that might be listening to this that are, more seasoned or more advanced in their journey. It's really hard to give up control and surrender to, letting go of pieces of your business. And at like every level, there's always pieces of like surrendering to the outcome. And I will say that I feel like they get bigger the more you scale.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, like if you can move through it, like that's like the quantum leaping piece. I feel like once you surrender to it, that's when like the door just opens up for so much possibility.
Something like immediately comes up for me when I think of like, what am I resisting letting go of in my business, that when I do let go of this and like pass it off, delegate it to somebody else, I know I'll experience that growth, but like I'm clinging on to it so fucking hard right now. Is there like something that's like popping up for you when I say that?
Ooh, oh my goodness. So we just hired a CMO for our business, fractional CMO, and she's a past client. And it was one hire that I have been waiting for a very long time to make because, being like a trained marketer coming from that world, it's really hard to let go of those things because it's just naturally like what you do. And I will tell you, since she's been on in the last like 3 weeks, it has opened up so much space and like breathing room that I literally can almost cry when I think about it because I'm like, I don't know why I waited this long.
It's
But
insane.
again, it was like one of those things, like I had to go through the tough shit to realize, okay, like I have to do this because I am stopping like our own like next level
Yeah.
by trying to be everything to everyone. And that just allows me to free up so much brain space to be more focused with clients and just focus on the growth and things like that while that piece is getting figured out. So that was my number one thing I was resisting, which was letting go.
That's huge. Wait, so I have to just tell you, when you said when you hired a CMO, like the first thing that like popped in my head was like, but that's what you do,
Exactly. Like
right?
I have
Which
another
is
brain for
so
myself.
huge. That's
Yeah.
that's so huge that you were able to pass that baton though, because you were able to take like that objective standpoint and stop being so emotional and like attached to what it is and hire it out. That's a really big step. I know for me, and I still haven't done it. And I like every single time I think about it, I like call myself out and then I don't do it again. And I'm like, fuck, man, like it's like this thing that keeps happening. But for me, it's like it comes down to making the sales. Like
Yeah.
I want to be the one in like client facing, perspective client facing all the time because I love it, number one. But the part that is the hindrance for me, and I know that's why when I let it go, it'll make it even better, is because I have this belief that I haven't dismantled yet that no one can sell my program
Ooh,
the way
yeah.
that I sell it. Right. But
Mm-hmm.
like if I was if I was only coming from the space of like, I love this so much and I'm going to continue doing it, which is half of it, then it would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it's not
Yeah.
creating any like internal whatever, but the other part of it is like, and if I hand this over, no one can sell my program and speak of my program the way that I do.
It's so interesting though, because same similar situation with like the marketing piece or even just in general, different pieces of your business,
Mhm.
we think, oh, well, no one's going to be able to do it like we do. And that sometimes is true, right?
Right.
But also it's like that thing where, okay, well, what if they have a different perspective? What if they
Mhm.
approach things from a different light? And that's exactly what happened with this new hire was, she came on and she is also a past client and she's like, just did a 180 of everything we were doing. And I was like, I didn't even think to look at things like this until you came on because you're so connected to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the biggest thing. I think business owners, you just have to relinquish control at some point because at some point it will hinder your growth, you
Yeah.
know?
For sure. No,
Mhm.
it's so true. And like, I think because we're so close to it and so attached to it, like we're unable to see what others see from like that outside perspective. It's kind of like, when you're in a relationship or when you're a parent or when
Mhm.
you like are, a part of like anything, like you have like you birthed this baby, like
Yeah.
you have this business. Of course, you're gonna have like an emotional biased, I guess. Like you're gonna have your own like bias or your own
Mhm.
perspective because it's how you've seen it your entire business life, right? Like your business life. So it's
Yeah.
like so hard to make that switch. So I want to know, I'm so curious, like that's a really, really big shift to make, like relinquishing that control. Like what
Yeah.
was was there like because I feel like there's always for me, there's like that straw that breaks the camel's back that you were like, I need to fucking do it. I just need to do it. Like there was like that
Mhm.
moment, like whether it's like that ugly cry meltdown or the like, I can't do this on my own anymore, like whatever it is. But was there that time, was that the moment for you where you're like, I need to do this. I just got to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so it was interesting because I think March was also, not to talk about like astrology and stuff, but there was like
no,
so
keep
much
that. I love the
happening.
astrology. Tell me all about it.
There was so much happening in March, just like
Yeah.
in general with like shifts. And I don't know about you, but I felt like March, I kept seeing like this door was just open sitting there. And I was like in the in between. And it was so uncomfortable the entire March because I was like looking back and seeing, okay, like this is who I was, but like, oh, this is the opportunity. And it was one of those situations where like if I didn't jump on making these changes, like the door is going to close.
Ooh.
So I sat with so much uncomfortable feeling for probably like the first half of March. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to give in. I'm going to give in. And I remember I went to San Diego and we brought her on and like the team just came back, was like, oh my God, like they literally came to me and said, I can finally feel how you can step away now and spend time with clients and not have to focus on these back end things that you keep doing. And it just like took the conversations and the feedback from the team to be like, okay, we made the right decision. But yes, there were a lot of ugly tears. There was a lot of overwhelm happening. And, to say that we were doing things bad, I would say that definitely wasn't the case, but there
No.
were so much like mental weight that I was holding on to that I didn't even realize. And, obviously we're in the process of acquiring another property right now. So there's like a lot of just moving parts. And I was like, something has to give. And that was it.
Wow.
But once I did it, once I stepped through the door, it has been like smooth sailing ever since.
It's so awesome. It's
It's
like,
crazy.
yeah, so there's a couple of things you said, and I want to first touch on if anyone else was feeling like some weird shit in March. Like March, I'm telling you, I started thinking like there's some weird shit happening, and I would have like every conversation that I like opened up
Mhm.
with, like someone else was saying like, is there some weird energy going on? Because like I'm really like usually like pretty in tune with like the
Mhm.
astrological happenings and like the
Same.
moon energy and all the things, but like I wasn't in March because there's a lot of things going on at home too. Like
Mhm.
Julian is like going through the sleep regression. Cameron has been up like every night, whatever. And I just haven't kept up with it. And I'm like, something's happening. And I'm like, the moon is affecting my children.
But seriously though.
But seriously, like they're actually affected right now. But then I said this to my husband. He's like, the moon can't affect our kids. I'm like, the moon affects the tides. It affects our children. Like, please, like, let's get real
Mhm.
here. But that's like the exact same thing that was happening with me too. Like, there's like this door. Like, I felt like there's this window of opportunity to make some really big changes and big investments and things like that.
Yeah.
And like, that's something that I did too. And like, I also felt like this is either now or like it's going to shut and I'm not going to have this opportunity again. And for me, it was like investing in my funnels and like my Facebook ads and stuff. So for anyone who's listening out there, you know, like you might be in the beginning stages of your business, and like when you grow your business, like it becomes it's a possibility to make all these investments and to hire people and to delegate tasks and to invest in marketing and advertising and all of the things. So for me, it was like I was experiencing like this resistance against it, but also wanting to do it. And ever since I did it, I'm telling you, like this month of expansion, like not just like like financially, yes, but like that's not what I'm talking about. It was more so like the weight lifted off of my shoulders.
Yes.
But also like now I'm working with the law of assumption, because I'm like, I know that this was the best investment I could have made right now. And it's going to create this like funnel, like for lack of better words, right?
Yeah.
For all of these amazing opportunities. So like putting that out there, and like I feel like that's exactly what you're doing right now and what you're moving through too. So I feel like it's like super aligned.
The same thing. Yeah, it's the same exact thing. And I noticed the same thing too with clients last month as well. Like everyone's energy it was all off, especially towards the end of the month too.
Yeah.
But now like going into April, I feel like I know it sounds cliche, but like there is like this ease. There's a sense of like peace and joy. I don't know if you've experienced this too, but I think like with those changes and with the possibility and opportunity, right? Like March was a really interesting month where people were like nervous of what's happening in the world, what's happening in the economy. There was just like so much chatter online. And now I think too, there's like this like grounded sense of energy that I'm also feeling as we're going into April.
So we're going into Aries,
Oh, fire.
right? Like take off, blast off. So good. No, and like that's cool too, like having that self-awareness, right? Like it all comes down to also like the self-awareness. And I think too, like, you know, as a business owner, having that awareness to know like I can't do it all myself. Like it's okay to like pass the baton and like do all of those things.
Yeah. And also just giving yourself grace too, like if you're in the beginning of your journey and you're listening to this, that, you know, your comment before about the ease and flow, and, you know, some people might get frustrated with that. And it's so, so true. And I get frustrated when I see that as well, because, you know, it's okay if you're in seasons where you're in push season, and it's okay in the beginning when you're, you know, doing all the things because you're getting this up and running and getting it off the ground. And it's like the ebb and flow and the push and pull energy, but like also give yourself some grace, because I mean, I was doing like 50 jobs at once in the first few years of business. You know, we just hired this company, this role now. Like we didn't do it in the beginning. So like give yourself some grace too if you're in like the thick season.
Right. And that's normal. Like that's so normal to be like the person wearing all the hats in the beginning, because you know, when I first started my business in 2019, I had this belief that it was supposed to be easy all the time, but like I was grinding, like literally all like I was doing, but same for you, and like same for everybody here who's listening and you're just starting. Like you wear all the hats when you first begin, but that doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. You know, you have this vision of what it's supposed to look like. And like I was following all these posts of like half your hours and double your pay, and I'm like, okay, when is this supposed to happen?
Exactly. It just sets
Because
like,
it doesn't seem like that's happening right now. Like, what the fuck? Am I doing something wrong? But like, as the consistency of like showing up for the vision and the like what I wanted to create continue to happen, like day after day, week after week, and like my first year and a half at the very least, maybe even longer, was I able to make that first hire and like ask for the help, and then invest in other things like PR and marketing and advertising and coaches and all of the things. So like if you're in this place right now where you're like, I'm wearing all the hats and I can't do this and I can't do that, just like hang on, like just stay committed to that vision. Keep showing up, because Rome wasn't built in a day, and like the miracle is going to happen, and it doesn't always happen overnight, like unless you have a viral video like on TikTok, and like even then, and even then it's like that doesn't mean anything, right?
yeah.
So cool. So like how did you stay committed to your vision like through all the adversity and through all the grind? Like what was like that? What was like the drive for you, or like what was that like why?
I think, and this is something too that I've noticed is actually has turned into like a gift more than anything, because I would just like do this subconsciously. but I'm a very visual person, and to the point where like I could literally close my eyes and visually understand like what my life is going to look like, down to like the house I was living in, like the house we built now, like the front door, I would like literally see it like in my dreams. Like I would exact everything the same. And it's crazy because the new property that we're acquiring, it's the same exact thing. It's the same vision I talked about years ago, which
Wow.
is wild. So I would always look at, okay, like what does my lifestyle look like first? And I'd look at, okay, what does this look like long term? And like, that's almost like my North Star there. The business vision has evolved over time.
Mhm.
And that's like a big thing too. Like I didn't walk into, the first few months of business knowing like, okay, I'm going to build these 3 brands. I'm going to have this like, elaborate thing. I was like, hey, I just want to, recover my corporate salary.
Yeah.
But I made sure I was looking at, okay, like how do I want to live? So I think that's like a big thing too, is getting clear on like what your vision is, because it's so easy to see like what everyone else is doing in the space and thinking like, I need that. Or,
Mhm.
for example, like the nomadic travel or having, I don't know, like luxury cars, if like that's your thing, whatever. But you have to find like what is your thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. And then I'd say too, there's going to be seasons where you're going to get derailed from that vision. And it's happened to me so many times, where I, was going down one path and realized, okay, like actually this is not the business model I'm supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
and have to quickly get back in realignment. And that only comes from self-awareness. A lot of business owners, at least from what I noticed too, sometimes they get on this hamster wheel, whether they, want to believe it or not. And you have to get yourself back in alignment, because, you can quickly realize you'll build yourself a digital prison, overnight. And so that's a big thing, is just getting very clear on like, what is your long-term, not the people around you.
Yeah, like having that awareness of what your vision is and not what everyone's expectations of your vision or of their vision for you even.
Yeah.
I think we fall into that a lot too, as like humans and society, because society, and I'm putting air quotes for anyone who's listening, if you're watching on YouTube, you see me doing it, but like I feel like there's so many like society pressures to like do things a certain way, like graduate high school, graduate college, get a job that you majored in, work 9 to 5 your entire life, have some kids, go on a vacation every year or so, and then retire. Right?
Yeah.
So like that wasn't ever my vision, clearly, and
Same.
that clearly wasn't yours either. So remember, if you have a vision, it's your sole responsibility to follow through with it, because if we always conform and always do what everybody else says we're supposed to do, we're going to be living a life that isn't beyond our wildest dreams. And like that's exactly what I talk about here, is like living the life beyond what you could even dream up, beyond that vision, right? And sometimes it's just the like contentment in the everyday, or the peacefulness or the presence in every day that's beyond what you could have ever experienced. Because when I was in corporate, like I didn't have any inner peace. And like this
Oh, yeah.
today, like sitting in this office, like I didn't dream this up, but like this feeling and like what I get like every day when I go home is like something beyond what I could have imagined, because I didn't even know it existed.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, I literally have on my office right now, there's from the Magnolia issue, like the previous one, and it's all about presence. And I have it like taped to my wall right now. And it's true, like exactly it, like finding moments and pockets of time, and just also being present in the process, because this entrepreneurship, it is a lifestyle at the end of the day. This is not just a job. Like you are living a lifestyle. And really just finding those peaceful moments, is really just what makes it worth it.
Totally. So like what does presence look like for you now?
Ooh, it's an ever evolving thing, but I think the biggest one is having quiet time, when my husband's home too, like during when we're cooking dinner and eating dinner, like no phones. And that was actually something that was like really, really hard for us. And we like both said, hey, like when we're together, there's no phones, put the phone away. When we're going out, no phones. And to me, that's like the ultimate presence too, because I think also, especially with entrepreneurship, sometimes it can be easy to never shut off. right? Or like your brain doesn't shut off. So like, how are you training your mind to do that? And also too, just like connecting with nature. That's something that I love. So now that it's getting warm outside in New York, just like going on walks, like leaving the phone inside and just getting some fresh air and some sunshine. It really just helps to put things into perspective and just like ground yourself.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
I love just leaving the phone. I keep my phone on
Mhm.
silent all the time. Like there's never an
Same.
alert that goes off on my phone, except when I wear my watch. I haven't figured out how to turn the little
Oh yeah.
the little vibration, which is like, I love wearing my watch though. But I just went across the street to get lunch before we got on this call, and I left my
Mhm.
phone. And it's just like, just even for a couple minutes, it's so nice to
Mhm.
just like tune out, because like the days where I'll get like the Instagram time limit warning, I'm like, what the fuck did I do today? Like, this is crazy,
Exactly.
right? So I can totally relate to like the feeling being present thing.
Mhm.
And like getting outside and like getting grounded. I love to take my shoes off and like walk in the grass. I
Yes.
can get to the beach because I'm pretty close to the beach, which is
Mhm.
nice. Or down the shore. If you're from Jersey, you say down the.
Mhm.
But I love that so much. It's so important to just like
Yeah.
have those quiet moments, especially with your family too. Because me and Brett too, like we
Mhm.
found ourselves in this pattern of like we were just like we're all addicted to our phones all the time. And like,
Mhm.
when do you spend like that quality time together? So it's now like a thing for us. Like we just leave our phones
Yeah.
off or silent, like
Love
face
that.
down, and
Mhm.
then enjoy each other's company, especially like now like we don't have that much, like he doesn't get that much time with the kids like
Yeah.
on the weekends and stuff, and like during the week I work a couple days a week, so
Mhm.
it's so important to just like reconnect
Yeah.
with like your loved ones and all of
I
the
love
things
that.
like that. So if you have one tip, anything that comes to your mind for our listeners today to like just like implement to maybe feel more present or more mindful or whatever it is that's coming to
Mhm.
you, I just want that one thing. What is that for you?
Ooh, I would definitely say go back to the future vision. Like that always grounds
Ooh.
me, especially when I start to feel out of alignment, just always going back to that. And I'd also say too, like if you're feeling the uncomfortable feeling or you're feeling confused or there's a lack of clarity, I always say there's like a breakdown before the breakthrough. So just like trust in that process too. If you're feeling like all things are going wrong, it usually means that you're at the cusp of something really, really big. So just trust in that.
Oh my God, that's so true. Like everything's like feels like it's crashing and burning all around, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden you're like rising from the ashes.
Oh,
Right.
I've done it so many times too.
So many times. It's amazing. And where can everyone find you, and how can they contact you if they want to find out more about what it is that you're doing and
Yeah.
how you can help their business?
So my Instagram is Hannah M. Nieves, and you can find me on there. All of our brands are linked there as well. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. I'll probably voice memo you back. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, all of her links are below. So if you are on YouTube, you can find it in the description. If you are listening on Apple, you can find it in the description. Go ahead and tag us if you're listening. Let us
Yes.
know what your favorite part about today's episode was, and let us know also how you're going to stay grounded today and how you're going to work through that next level, because it's always a process and it's always fun.
Always.
Yes. So everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. And remember, you are you, and that is your superpower. Love you guys so much. And I can't wait to talk to you all again next week. Mwah! Bye,
Boom.
everybody.